a week since the whole Will Smith Oscar fiasco happened. And when I saw it last Sunday night, I thought it was a stunt. I watched it twice. I didn't investigate it further. I was thinking, it's 10:30. I have to go to bed. I have to get some sleep. I have to get up in the morning. So I didn't investigate it. I just assumed it was a stunt because under no circumstance would anybody believe that Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, would walk up on a stage like that and slap Chris Rock for any reason. So I went to bed, only to wake up the next morning to find out that it wasn't a stunt. And not only was it not a stunt, but Will had several outbursts from his seat. I was stunned. Like millions of people, I just couldn't believe it. I was thinking, it was a joke. It wasn't that serious. Will Smith is the only reason why I watch the Oscars. He's the only reason why my entire family watched the Oscars. Post him winning, we were anticipating that he would be interviewed, everywhere. And they would ask questions about King Richard, the character. Let me tell you something. Richard Williams is from the Shreveport area in Louisiana. There is a certain dialect in certain pockets of Louisiana. I'm a Louisiana native. So if you're from North Louisiana, if you're from Shreveport, there's a difference than the way somebody speaks from Monroe. There's a difference in the way people speak in Alexandria. There's a difference the way the Creoles and the Cajuns speak, right? Because I know I only been doing videos maybe consistently, maybe a couple of weeks, right? Initially, I would always edit out when I would say shy, because that is a Creole slang. And I would just edit it out, and I just stopped doing it because it's such a part of the way I speak that there's no reason for it, right? Because you want to get who I am really, okay? So the way folks speak from New Orleans, and Will Smith mastered that dialect. And so I wanted to know, did you have a dialect coach? How long did it take you to learn how to speak like that? There were so many questions we wanted to have answered. But because of this slap, there were no interviews about the character of Richard Williams. And so that's what was most disappointing to me, is that we didn't get a chance to hear about the journey. And I'm not saying that he didn't do interviews prior to the Oscars, because I know he did. But in watching a lot of those interviews, there were questions that nobody asked. I wondered if he went to Louisiana to spend some time in that region of the state to just pick up that dialect by ear, or if he hired a dialect coach, how many hours he devoted to it, because that's not something that is easy for a person that's from Philly. That's not easy. But if you go to that part of Louisiana, you will hear Richard Williams and many of the folks that live there. You will hear it. And that may not be a valid question. It may not be something that you may be interested in, but it was a question that I had that I was always hoping that someone would ask. Maybe they did, and I didn't see that particular interview, but I was just disappointed in how all of that unfolded. I read Will's memoir. It was an excellent memoir. I couldn't wait for it to come out. I couldn't wait to get my hands on a physical copy. Of course, I had the audio in my Audible library. I enjoyed every page of it. I enjoyed Mark Manson's book as well, because he wrote this with the help of Mark Manson. He wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. So in the summary, though, it says that this is the story of a man mastering his emotions. That is in the summary. That is the first thing that you know to expect when you read his memoir, that this is the story of a man who has mastered his emotions. And I'm not suggesting that he's not human and he can't have a lapse of frustration and anger and lash out, because we all do. But it was hard for me to reconcile that the man that I read about in the memoir was the same man that walked up on the stage and slapped Chris Rock. That was hard for me, because it seems as though those were two different people. Because when I think of Will Smith, I don't think of aggression. I think of, a goofy guy, always laughing, maybe even a prankster. And I think that's why I wanted to believe that. There was no reason for me to read any other post that this had to have been a prank. This was a stunt, because I could see Will Smith doing something like that, only to find out that no, he literally slapped Chris Rock in front of 52 million people. Think about the process of writing a book. Every author that I've ever heard speak about their process talked about how cathartic it was. Because when you write a book, you have to get what's in your heart, in your head, and from your head to the paper. That's just by nature a cathartic experience. After having written a book like Will, where you put it all out, that's like a therapy session for eternity, it seems, because he had a lot of heavy stuff in him that he got out. And so I would think that he would be so light spiritually that he wouldn't have it in him to slap Chris Rock. That's just, one of the observations that I'm questioning. Does he need to write Will 2.0? Will Volume 2? Because obviously there's a lot in there. And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze him, but just from the outside looking in, it appears as though he has a lot going on. I don't think it was about Chris's joke. And I tell you, anytime I've ever acted out, it was 9 times out of 10, it was never about what it appeared to be about. I was always pissed off about something else. And that was just my breaking point. If Chris wanted to be offensive, he could have. I've seen him perform several times. Trust me, he can be offensive. He would have written a nastier joke if he wanted to be offensive. I saw Chris, I've seen him several times, but one of the most vivid memories that I have of seeing Chris Rock was at the Sanger Theater. This was a night back in 2017. And I know New Orleans, y'all remember this, back in 2017 when we hadn't been seeing too much of Chappelle and it was Chris's tour. So Chris, we're waiting, there was the acts that, the opening acts that come out, local comedians and things like that. So we're waiting on Chris to come out. Dave Chappelle comes out. We're thinking to introduce Chris. But Chappelle never leaves the stage. And we weren't expecting to see Chappelle. We were damn sure didn't expect that it was going to be a 90-minute set with both of them on the stage. And they spoke about Chris's divorce. So when I tell you Chris Rock, and that wasn't the set that he had planned, it was just like a conversation that was hilarious between him and Chappelle. Because Chris said, you know what, F it, this is the show. Because Chappelle said, I've been meaning to ask you about your divorce. And they just started having a conversation that was hilarious for 90 straight minutes. Chris could have been offensive if he wanted to. I just don't think that that's what he was aiming for. There should have been a space where Will could have gone to him and said, Jada didn't like the joke, you hurt her feelings, and given Chris an opportunity to apologize if that's what he wanted to do. If that's what he wanted to do, there should have been a space allowed for him to do that. And this is not Jada's fault, but let me tell you something. If I was at an event, the Oscars or anywhere with my husband, and I know he about to show his ass, I would have taken my little hand. I would have put it, right in the right between his forearm and his arm, right by his elbow. When I felt just a little bit of pressure, a little bit of body heat, like he's about to stand up, I would have put my hand there. And if that didn't work, I would have stepped on his foot. And I would have gave him a look like, what you doing? Where you think you're going? And if that didn't work, when he got up and walked off, I would have called his full birth name, Willard Carroll Smith. The bathroom over there. Willard, it's not commercial break. Willard. I would have gotten his attention to turn him around. And he may have kept going, but I would have at least called his name in a manner that he know communication between the two of us. Whatever it is that she calls him when she's trying to convey, I'm not playing with you. I would have gotten his attention. I remember some years ago, it was not that many years ago, but I remember my husband was at his sister's wedding and the ex-husband showed up. Yes, the ex-husband showed up after the wedding to talk to his ex-wife about the custody arrangement with the kids. Now, your ex-husband should never show up on your wedding day. He should not show up before the wedding, after the wedding, during the wedding. But he showed up in that space right after she had gotten married, and we went back to my mother-in-law's house for something. I can't remember what it was. And it was just a few minutes. The ex-husband was right there. Like, he walked in the house. My husband, we were bug-eyed because we couldn't believe it was like a ghost had walked in the house. And he wanted to talk to his ex-wife about the custody arrangement with the kids on her wedding day. She hadn't been married 30 minutes. I already know this is about to go left. So I'm trying to diffuse the situation immediately. But men have to be men. So my husband is pissed because this is his baby. This is the baby. This is his sister, the youngest. Her ex-husband is trying to ruin her day. So I let him, get a few things off his chest, but he was wanting to get a little too buck for me. And I was like, we are not about to fight in your mom's house. Not even 30 minutes after. We just witnessed a beautiful ceremony. And we have all this food, liquor, wedding cake. We're about to go, enjoy and celebrate their union. And y'all want to fight. I'm not having it. So I let them be men, but he was cutting up. But we all have a way that we communicate with our husbands. And if I was sitting there at the Oscars or anywhere with my husband, I would have called his full legal name. And I would have said, Willard Carroll, the bathroom is over there. Willard, it's not the commercial break, dude, in a few minutes. Willard, I would have done something to get his attention. And if that didn't work, I would have taken my little hand and put it right between his elbow and his forearm, put a little pressure on him. And if that didn't work, when I, still felt like he was going to, arise from his seat, I would have put my little foot on his shoe. I would have done something to let him know, you better not get up. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass me in front of all of these people. Something, anything. And I'm not saying that she didn't whisper something to him. We don't know. Just from the outside looking in, it was just a very, very unfortunate situation. I have more respect for Chris Rock than I ever had, because he took that. It shows how much emotional intelligence that he has, that he didn't overreact. He didn't even respond. He didn't even respond to it. Physically, he came back really quick with a joke, but he didn't respond in a way that I know millions of people wished, millions of men as well wished he would have, because I know my husband. Oh, you slap my husband, it's going to be some misdemeanor, maybe even some felony charges. It's going to be some charges. It's going to be I'm going to have to go on to the bank and get some bail money, all kinds of stuff. And I'm not celebrating violence, don't get me wrong, but we're all human and we all want to be respected as men, as women. Waited a week because I just thought this was going to blow over. And every day I wake up, the little bit of time that I do have to look at YouTube, this story is everywhere. I have no comments really about their marriage. I just like to stay out of people's personal life, even if they put it out there for me to consume. I just like to stay away from that stuff as much as I can, because I like for people to stay away from mine. So I try to give you the same respect. But it was interesting listening to my uncle, my mom's brother. I think he's in his mid-50s. It was interesting, his perspective. And we all shared the same perspective. From the 19-year-olds up to the mid-50s, we all shared the same opinion. Will Smith was out of line, but I believe he and Chris can get past this. They can get past this. They can turn this around. And I really applauded Chris for not coming out right away with his thoughts about it, that he needed to process it. That shows how much emotional intelligence this man has. He needs to process it. He needs to figure out what he feels, not what his brother feels, his children, his mom, but what he feels about it. And that shows so much emotional intelligence on his part. But I think they can get past it. They can turn this thing around. Unfortunately, the legacy of this movie, King Richard Williams, Will Smith, will always be tied to that night. That's unfortunate. And in some ways, Chris Rock, it's going to be attached to him. And that's unfortunate. That really is, unfortunate. Every time, I watch King Richard, that's going to come to my mind. Hell, man, he might be the messed up summertime. I might even think of this one summer. In my family, we have certain traditions. My mom, the night of Thanksgiving, she's going to put Donny Hathaway on to kick off, the holiday season, right? Some of us, we put Will Smith on to kick off summer. Now, when we kick off summer in another month, when Will Smith's Summertime is playing, I know I can feel it right now. Somebody's going to bring up, I wonder why he slapped Chris Rock. What was that? I just know that everything that he does now that slap is going to be tied to everything he does in the future and everything he's done in the past. And that's the tragedy of everything. If you haven't liked the video already, like, share, and subscribe to my channel.